As a kid, I always wanted to do film music, really. That's what I wanted to do. And I sort of slowly moved away for quite a while from making records for record's sake. It was a natural thing for me because my stuff sounds quite cinematic anyway, quite big. So it was just a natural progression, really, not a plan. I'm Andy Gray. I'm a composer, sound designer and musician. Also known for dance music back in the 90s and working as a producer and a programmer with lots of bands up until I sort of moved mainly into composing over the last sort of 20 years. The traditional remixer was like extending a 12-inch record back in the the 60s and 70s and early 80s. And then it become into nearly just using the vocal, rewriting the backing tracks to fit a genre. What used to happen was it was kind of like a rework just to help with marketing. So there was like a version for a club, there was a trance version or a heavy house version or wherever it was. And I kind of was producing these and programming these bands and then on the side doing these remixes. And it was a real big market before the internet, just to help with promotion really. And now it's different now because I kind of think everyone's a remixer. So I think that kind of thing's changed and it's become more of a, a big DJ might get someone in their bedroom to help them do it, or they might do it themselves type thing. It's great working with Gary Newman. He was one of my heroes when I was a kid. Eventually got to meet him, work with him, write songs, did loads of remixes and stuff for that. We've become really good friends. I did really enjoy it in Shikari. They moved a lot, so back then on the Isle of Wight, before I moved mainly into film, was doing a lot with people moving in basically, because I had a big place, so it was residential. And they were brilliant. We recorded Common Dreads, everything live, everything played live. Really good guys. I was working with Paul Oakenfold on Bunker. I was the main writer on Bunker, as well as producer and engineer. And we were offered some work on Swordfish, the film Swordfish. We just ended up staying in LA and doing the whole of Swordfish, the electronic side. I did that, and Christopher Young did the strings side. As a kid, I always wanted to do film music, really. That's what I wanted to do, and I didn't really know how to get into it. And I sort of slowly moved away for quite a while, just before then Shikari days, from making records for record's sake and just doing music to picture. And it was just it was a natural thing for me because my stuff sounds quite cinematic anyway, quite big. And that's it was just a natural progression, really, not a plan. My approach is pretty much the same for each project. And I kind of work on the soundscape, first of all. What's it going to sound like, whether it's going to be classical, electronic, whatever. Once I get some tones and some ideas, then the idea of the melodies start to come. Then you can start playing stuff to the director usually. But the best way is really to go in from scratch and just to come in, make some sound ideas, sculpt out where you think the melody is going to go. And then you can work to the picture and fit it to the story. Trying to tell a story, that's the main thing with music to film. I sort of play guitar a bit like a punk. I'm not a shredder or anything. You cannot emulate the sound of a guitar string very well on a computer. So if you need a strum or you need a bit of a plectrum, record loads of it, chop it up and sort of fudge it in. If it needs to be played, I've got it there for a guitarist to come. I've finally got my arm twisted and I bought a Kemper, which I'm new to. I really like it. I like it off, it's a bit tricky on the front, use an iPad to control it. I got my old Champ, which is a 1957 original Champ that I've had forever. That sounds really big, mic'd up, tiny as a speaker. And then slide guitars. I've got a couple of custom guitars that I haven't got here that are slides, mainly for doing drones, EBO and stuff like that. And I've also got a piano now. After the studio was remodeled, the doors now open on the front. There's a balcony, so we can actually get up because the stairs are too tight. I got a piano and I managed to get a Disclavier one where you can connect the MIDI. So I can kind of sit and work out my parts and then fire the MIDI to it and it plays it back, and it's really, really cool. I really love doing that. I think keyboards is a bit like actors. They all do the same job. All actors do the same thing, but they all come across differently. Some of my favourite things, some things that I never thought I'd own, is the Korg PS 3100. That's an amazing synth, and just really rare and really weird sounding, quite thin, quite sort of glassy in a way. Cool, got a bit of a housey sound going on at the moment, but Johan Johansson's favourite synth was this. Yeah, it's a great synth, I love this. The ARP 2600, this is really cool. This is the reissue. I absolutely love it, and I love the fact it's the reissue because it doesn't crackle, it doesn't go out of tune. Really cool. Basses, drones, reverbs in it. So that's cool, love that. This is my expander. This is really good. It's not a reissue, it looks quite new. I do like mint gear. This is like from 1987, I think. I did a lot of work with Human League on Octopus. I worked on the album, and I programmed exclusively on expander for that whole album, basically. And there's some songs that I just expander. So I wasn't going to buy any more synths, and then this thing come along. Really good. Has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. So it does pitch noise, kind of Linkin Park style. And sampling that and then chopping it around, that's the main thing. This weird drum machine, this is really cool. Very analog, completely raw. Great for sound design, all of this stuff. This thing's MIDI'd up, this thing you have to play just with a simple output. And then something else I always wanted, this is mainly the bottom section is the original early 60s original modular Moog, and then I've added a couple of cabinets of some of the more modern stuff. I found with the old analog gear, especially like these are the very first Holy Grail original filters. They're really round and woolly. They're not very cutting edge. They really sit back. They're not like a plug-in, which is boof in your face. And what I found was mixing the combination of the really old units with some of the more modern units is you get a kind of best of both worlds. You get that big Boards of Canada, you know, round, not very in tune oscillators, to the very super sharp, in your face, great fat things. When you sit at a certain keyboard, the way it's set up, it makes you work in a certain way, and you sit at a different keyboard, it's set up in a different way. And I think it inspires you to make different sounds. I think if you could make most of the sounds on one keyboard, something like a Moog 1 can do most of the stuff in this room. Like a wall of modular like this is really inspiring to making modular type sounds. But trying to make a polyphonic synth on that, you can do it, but it's slow. So that's when you use the other stuff. So I think it's just having the selection. That's the main thing with synthesizers, to feed your ideas. I really wanted the Ferrofish A32 because I wanted loads of I/O, loads and loads of I/O. It's connected to the MADI face, so this is connected 64 ins and outs. 32 of them are analog. All my effects returns for my guitar pedals and stuff like that. Every synthesizer is connected to it. I've had mics since the late 80s, been collecting them, and I used to also have a massive collection of mic amps. I did find that with using the vintage, say V72 or whatever it was, Telefunken, using that and an old mic, the noise floor got bigger and bigger, and it was, where's the noise floor coming from? Is it the mic? Is it the mic amp? And I recently switched to the mic, the 12Mic from RME for that reason. Super clean, loads and loads of gain, and then you use a vintage mic connected to that, you get your vintage sound, but your signal path after the mic is pretty clean, direct into the box, which is, you know, for me has been the best solution. I usually save the first two on the TRS for like plugging the guitars in, like for high impedance inputs. 4 for the guitar corner, 4 for the piano, and then there's 2 spare, which I have just on trailing mic leads for if I'm recording anyone in the room. This controller is really handy. This is showing us everything that's going on, and then there's an auto gain thing here. If you look here, it says auto set gain. So it's really cool. If you're going to record that piano with 4 mics and you're on your own, we crank this auto gain all the way up, scary loud, hit the piano, and auto gain is set now. It meant that everything's plugged in. That's the key, so that you're not trying to swap out mic 1 and change levels. So everything's connected all of the time. The mics are labeled on the TotalMix, so I can see the name of the mic that normally is the default mic. Yeah, and it's effortless. It sounds amazing. So a really slick system, and it's all basically in a 1U unit. And then the extra 1U is for the mic pre's. So really good, really easy to use. So originally I used Pro Tools as my main tracking rig because Pro Tools was the only thing that had audio of any big amount. And at that point, DigiDesign, not Avid, made their own interfaces. So I just stayed with that. I do want it to sound good. I want it obviously to be the best quality it can be. But back in the day when it went to Apogee, it was really flaky connection. So I'd rather have the latest DigiDesign at the time or Avid than I would go third party and it didn't connect properly. And then I moved away from Pro Tools and you didn't need Pro Tools hardware. And I did, dip my foot into UAD and other makes, which I stayed for a while. It's just clunky. It's just not for me. It wasn't effortless. Come across RME when I moved to Cubase about 1.5 years ago. First time I've bought RME, and it's just so easy. It just is rock solid. It always is there. And I also run my whole studio off of a laptop, and it's super portable. We plug the laptop into a couple of Thunderbolts, take it out at night, and then when you come back the next day, everything's set up. There's none of this driver stuff, none of this, is it going to see the driver, unplug it, plug it, none of that. It hasn't done that once. There is another computer in the studio. It's not very sophisticated. It's a Mac Mini, and it's just running Pro Tools 12. If you're doing a film which is reel by reel, so to say 5 reels or whatever, it's quite handy that as you're moving around, you can export the file, whack it into Pro Tools, which is just sitting there with all of the film in one hit. So this is the Cubase rig. So this is connected directly to the Ferrofish A32pro. And all the audio passes through Cubase, from Cubase rather, into there to the speakers. And audio comes in on the Ferrofish or the 12Mic into Cubase, but also, so this is where the music's written and recorded. And then over here, this is the music when it's been done. These are the stems, or these are the cues. You can see these little blocks, and that's the stems for the breakdown. So drums, high, medium, low, strings, long, scary, short. And then you've just got a reference. You can see it almost like a patchwork quilt. You can see where you're missing cues and where you're adding cues. That then connects back down to the Ferrofish as well. So both different systems are connected through, and the Ferrofish is kind of like the hub for all the audio. It can either pass the audio directly to the speakers for monitoring, or it can put the audio into Cubase and allow Cubase to be the master controller. And then, so the main rig is the writing rig and the backup rig is the Pro Tools rig. And that's quite good because when you deliver at the end of a film as well, there needs to be a way to deliver the stems. There's a lot of stems. So a Pro Tools file is a very clean, simple way. And at the dub, still people use Pro Tools at the dub. I don't actually use Pro Tools to create anymore or to record. This is the names of the keyboards. So you can choose the input number, but I've actually named them. So you've got PS3100, S100M, which is the System 100M, Moog, all the way across. Then all my mic ins. So these are my 4 spare, which are the ones I use on the front, usually high impedance. Then you've got piano, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then guitar, 1, 2, 3, 4. What is great about TotalMix, I mean, and it really is a game changer. I don't have a mixing desk in this studio. And sometimes you want to just quickly play something, that's not right, move on. So with TotalMix, you can route the synth directly to the output. If you look down here, so number 1 is Cubase, and that's going to basically play the main Mac rig through the speakers, and then Cubase will control everything else. Number 2 is Pro Tools. Now, all we're listening to is Pro Tools. Number 3 is Pro Tools and Cubase. And then the noisy one, number 4, that is everything in the studio live. So all the keyboards are playing now. And even the mics are live, so you can just do it like that. And so you can just hit number 4 and just go and play a keyboard. You don't need to go into Cubase and enable a track and check it out. So it's really quick. And it just gives you kind of a software mixing desk that is just sitting there in the background. And it's not really interfering. It's not changing levels into Cubase. Cubase deals with its own levels. It's just enabling something to be routed directly to the speakers. Yeah, well, I've got a film just out now, just come out this week, No Way Up. We're second week in Feb, so it's just come out. That's not hit England yet, it's worldwide and at cinemas everywhere else, but in England we've got another 6 weeks to wait. I've got another couple of things. I don't like to talk about what's in the pipeline, can I jinx them? But again, documentaries and films coming up for the rest of this year, basically.